Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talking the Town podcast. If you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we're now on the road to 500 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. If you love sports content, sports talk, anything from sports betting to updated rankings every week, it's all right here on the Talking the Town podcast. And yeah, man, I hope you guys are having a good Tuesday so far. I can tell you where I live at here on the East Coast. 30-degree weather, ice, sleet, rain. Just pretty shitty weather and a really lazy day, pretty lazy week so far to start off. So I hope the weather is better where you guys are at or wherever you're watching. And yeah, here today, we're going to be going over the Giants versus Pats on Monday Night Football last night, going over my top 10 teams throughout 13 weeks of the season. And then we have a little segment at the end called Matt's Stock Market. Some teams you should buy into for the rest of the year. Some teams you should sell on. And like I say, when I sell on a team, I do not buy back in. I don't even consider them for the rest of the year. I'm done with them. And then some teams you should consider buying into or maybe consider selling. So we'll get right into that at the end of the video. Make sure to stay tuned. And let's get into the Giants versus Pats Monday Night Football game from last night. 33-15, just an ass kicking. It was like 17-0 by the end of the first quarter. And you just kind of look up and they keep running up the score. I think the Giants had it at like 17-7 at some point in the first half and was kind of like, okay, maybe they'll not make this a blowout, but you look at the final score, it was never really close all game, to be honest with you. Drake May and that offense had complete control. And hell, even the defense and the special teams, every unit on the field was just kind of outplaying the Giants last night. Not kind of, I mean, they were. Christian Ellis had a career night last night. I don't know if you guys watched that game, but he was laying some brutal hits all over that field. On Jackson Dart, when he was trying to get out of bounds, which, look, it was a clean hit. They told Jackson Dart, look, after the game, I'm sure the coach has been in his ear. Hell, I'm sure Brian Daboll, before he got fired, was in his ear about sliding. I've seen a couple clips about that. And he even said on the podium after the game that, look, this isn't soccer. He's here to play. He's here to get hit. But, you know, some of my thoughts on that is like, dude, I get it. You're tough. You can take hits. But when you have a guy who is 50, 60 pounds heavier than you, and it's basically like getting hit by a car when you both are running at 20 miles an hour, maybe not you necessarily, but he's pretty fast. He's athletic. I wouldn't doubt if he can at least get to 20 miles an hour. He's fast regardless. And you have some of these defensive linemen and linebackers, corners, hell, whatever, safeties coming at you just like a truck. That's going to take a toll on your career and your health at some point. I get you want to be tough. You want to stick in there for your team, take those hits. I understand to a point. You got to put on a certain persona, but dude, at the same time, you got to be smart. That's just not smart, especially for you. At some point here in 3 to 4 years, you're going to be looking for a contract extension. And if you're sitting there and you are banged up to all hell because you just won't take this much to just step out of bounds, it's like, I get going for the extra yard or two, but bro, when you're 7 yards away from the sticks and you're about to get crunched by Christian Ellis, you just got to step out of bounds. And I know the Giants were not happy with it. A big fight broke out after that. But, and look, I get sticking up for your quarterback. But they even said, Buck and those guys up there were saying that the league is trying to make it seem like, hey, I know you're in bounds, but we're not just going to give you a flag because you take a hard hit. You're in bounds. You know, you got to learn to get out of bounds. That could take a serious toll on Jackson Dart, and he seems to kind of be stuck in his ways a little bit. Now, whether or not, look, I get it. You're in front of the New York media. You kind of have to put on a tough guy persona. I'm not saying, you know, he's a wuss or anything like that, or he's lying to everybody. But at the same time, we'll see in game. After a couple of times you take those hits, you know, well, what, he's my age. He might actually be younger than me. I think Jackson Dart is. Those hits hurt regardless. But when you start getting older, you're not going to be able to take those hits anymore. You're going to sure as hell wish you didn't take those hits. You're going to feel it. And I'm sure he's feeling it this morning. He may not have been feeling it last night after all the adrenaline and everything, but still, that's some Giants fans. And hell, even himself, Jackson Dart should be concerned about going forward. But the Patriots just putting on a full ass kicking last night. Drake May, I think, is now the favorite in the MVP again after last night. And I've seen some people say as well that, well, he shouldn't be. Look at his numbers. He's on pace to maybe finish with 30-ish touchdowns, barely 4,000 yards or something like that. But look at the other competition around him. It's not great either. But if you watch him, he's not out here throwing to Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. I'm just using that because Stafford is the next guy up in the MVP race. And look, what he's done in less than a year, I mean, mind you, this time last year, the Patriots had like 2 wins and they were just getting crunched. I remember Christmas Day, or I think it was the 26th or Christmas Eve, they were playing against the Chargers. And I went to my girlfriend's grandparents' house and I was watching Drake May go against the Chargers. And mind you, this was less than a year ago. And they looked like they were a Division II college team out there playing the Chargers. The turnaround that May has had and the team has had, and a lot of it's due to May and Vrabel both, is that to me is worthy of most valuable player. I mean, without him, maybe this Patriots team would be a little bit better than 4 wins, what they've had the last couple of years. But they're not 11-2 without him. The throws, it seems like every throw he hits it, no matter whether it's across his body, on the run, whatever it is, to Kayshon Boutte and Hunter Henry. Like, he's not out here throwing to premier receivers, but he's getting it done regardless. And hell, look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen's throwing to mediocre receivers. I'd say they're around the same skill level. Some people would say better than New England's receivers. I have been seeing that some people still think the Bills receiving core is better than the Pats. Look, they're kind of neck and neck. They're pretty close. Neither are stellar, but they're not bad either. And they're struggling on offense. They have 4 less wins than the Patriots. So, or 3 or 4 less wins, but still, that just goes to show you that Vrabel and May, man, this duo is really working. And they're young guys as well. And they had a graphic last night on the TV that they have, I think, the second or third most snaps by rookies in the league. And the rest of the teams on there were the Jets, the Titans, the Browns, like the worst teams in the league. And then you have New England up there. It's like their draft this year, historically for the Patriots franchise, is going to go down as an all-timer. I mean, the production they're getting out of their young stars, and this is what I'm saying about New England, is like their team, whereas Washington last year was kind of weird because it's not like their players were young. They relied a lot on Bobby Wagner, Austin Eckler, like really just older players, Zach Ertz. Hell, even Terry McLaurin's not old, but he's getting older. He's not 24, 25 years old. They didn't just draft him 2 years ago. I mean, he's in his 30s now. Receivers kind of peter out past 32, 33 years old. They kind of start falling down a cliff a little bit. So, but anyway, the Commander situation was kind of different because, like I mentioned, they have a lot of older players they're kind of relying on. The Patriots players, Christian Gonzalez is considered a seasoned veteran. He's like 26 or something like that, and they just drafted him 3 years ago. I mean, this guy's barely been in the league, and he's considered a veteran on this team. So it's really interesting with them because they're only going to get better. Like, these guys are going to enter their prime, and they have more drafts. And they have years of these guys on rookie contracts. Hell, Drake May doesn't have to get paid for another 2 years, 3 years. So this could be really just the future of the next couple of years, and hell, beyond that for New England is all in their hands. What they do with it, how they draft, they could have another dynasty on their hands. Seriously, I say teams that are young, that they don't necessarily have to go out and buy all their players. Like the Eagles, like a lot of their team isn't necessarily drafted. Now they are Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, who they drafted in the first round, Jalen Hurts, like those guys are drafted. But you look at some other guys like Saquon Barkley, like they do have guys, A.J. Brown, like that they kind of bought into. Now all teams, look, Stephon Diggs, they bought into. Every team's not going to have their entire teams drafted, I understand, but they have a lot of young talent that they drafted, which is an absolute bonus. It goes to show you whatever they're doing in that GMing room is working. I mean, Vrabel, hell, him and Ben Johnson both deserve Coach of the Year. I think they should honestly share the award. It's been a while since we've seen a shared MVP or anything like that. But you look at what those two are doing. The Bears and the Patriots from where they were held the last 5 years or so. I mean, it's pretty crazy. The Bears longer than that. I mean, they've been a shit show forever now, it seems like. And Ben Johnson came in this organization and turned it around in the matter of less than a year. I mean, what these two have done is just nothing short of incredible. They should really share the award. Vrabel comes in, And this is where you have to wonder about like Sean McDermott's job security. And this is what I say about Miami and how they're now like 5-7. They're barely in the hunt in the playoffs right now. And people are like, well, their offense looks good. Like they should keep Mike McDaniel. There's no way you look at a division with guys like Vrabel and hell, even Sean McDermott, who is kind of on the hot seat. It's just a little warm right now. I think it really depends on what they do in the playoffs. If they're one and done, I think we could see Sean McDermott potentially heading out the door in Buffalo. But that'll kind of rest, and we're going to have to wait and see how that develops here in the next 5 or 6 weeks or so. But, you look at Vrabel now stepping in his first year, what he's doing. There's no way you can even argue to keep Mike McDaniel. That's where the argument is with Aaron Glenn is like, they see Aaron Glenn. First off, though, I think there is potential with Aaron Glenn. I'm not saying he should be fired, but that's what some people try saying is like, some people try saying, sorry, my mom's screaming in the background, something, telling me something's right now. I don't know. But anyway, that with Aaron Glenn is like, I do feel like there's some culture to be built there in New York. Jets coaches are so unproven, to be honest with you. It's pretty ridiculous. I don't think Aaron Glenn is a one and done. Look at Saleh, what he's doing in San Francisco. Hell, he might be a head coach next year. So what Vrabel's doing, you can't justify keeping Mike McDaniel or any of those jokers. Maybe not. I mean, Sean McDermott is pretty experienced. I'm not saying they should fire him, but I know the Bills are taking a look at like, okay, our division's kind of getting stronger. Whoever Miami hires next, what if they have a good hire? Can we potentially keep on to Sean McDermott? We'll have to see how that folds out in the AFC East. But yeah, man, I just the Giants though. They need some direct. They need adulting in that room. Now, with them firing Daboll, doesn't help either. Abdul Carter being benched now a couple times this season. He didn't play the first, I think, couple drives of the game last night. There's a couple rumors going around why he didn't play. There's one that's pretty absurd. I'm not going to say it here because if it's not true, I'm going to look like a real jackass. So I'm not going to say it here just yet. But I'm sure if you go up and look at a couple articles why Abdul Carter was benched last night, you'll see it. So I'm not going to say it because if it ain't true, I ain't going to look like a dickhead saying it. But regardless, they need to, like Abdul Carter, you've seen him at Penn State. Hell, even when James Franklin fired, like that was a real, that's a real school, a real, let's say college. I don't necessarily use the word franchise, but you get what I'm saying. A real program. That's the word I'm looking for there. There's adults all in the building, professionals. Hell, you're surrounded by Tyler Warren. And I know Penn State kind of fell off a cliff this year, but again, you lose Abdul Carter and Tyler Warren. It's a pretty big loss for anyone. You lose them both in the first round. They both went, third overall? And I think Tyler Warren went in the top 10 or something like that, or just around there. So pretty elite talent you're losing there. And you end up losing Drew Allen for the year. But he was in a real program, and he was kept under some good control there. Now with the Giants, they fire their coach. Even with Daboll, it's kind of a circus there for a while. They need an adult there. That's why I figure this job, the New York Giants coaching job, is going to be one that is highly sought after. And I think, especially with the Steelers and the Mike Tomlin situation kind of going down there, I could see Mike Tomlin being the New York Giants head coach next year. And I think, meanwhile, Steelers fans kind of get on him. He is a good head coach. I just think time's run its course there in Pittsburgh with him. And I think with the whole franchise in Pittsburgh, to where they've been stuck at 9-8 and 10-7 forever now and getting bounced out in the first round, what Pittsburgh needs is losing seasons. Because the last time they had a losing season, they drafted Ben Roethlisberger. That was the last time they had a losing season. So in order to get players like that, look, they can get decent players drafting 20, 21, 24, 25, wherever they draft in the mid to early 20s. You can manage to snag decent players, but you're not going to get Ben Roethlisberger at 25th overall. You're not going to get players like that. That's where they need a couple of losing seasons to really get those generational guys that you can have for 10, 15 years. Get a generational quarterback. They're kind of stuck in the realm of what the Colts have kind of been stuck into, where it's kind of like, I think it's kind of creeping back up on them now, where they need a franchise quarterback. Daniel Jones isn't a franchise quarterback, where they've been kind of messing around with. They tried with Pickett. Pickett was in a terrible draft, for one. If it was any other draft, like 24 with Williams and Penix and May and Daniels, Pickett would have went in the third or fourth round. There's no way maybe the second round. There's no way he would have been a first round pick. They were trying to justify Desmond Ridder and Malik Willis being first round picks. I mean, that's how bad that draft was for QBs. They were trying to make something out of nothing. Pittsburgh swung, they missed. It happens. Look, I respect it. They tried getting a QB, but it didn't work. They need to draft, they need to get a top 10 pick and get a QB. They need bad seasons. They just do. It sucks, but look at the Patriots turnaround, as I mentioned. They had some really bad years. You end up getting Drake May. You end up getting Will Campbell. And look at how fast this turnaround. They end up getting a new coach. They just need a new culture there. That's why I argue with the Ravens, too. Like Harbaugh, look, they had some winning years. Their situation's different because they have a lot better of a roster than Pittsburgh, but the culture just ends up dying out and the message wears thin. That's where I feel like it's at with Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Like the Giants, if they could just get a couple of consecutive 10-7 seasons, he'd be seen as just like a prophet in New York. It's been a while since they've won. I mean, hell, Tom Coughlin was their last real winning coach. I mean, Jesus, he's ancient now. I think he's some sort of kind of high guy up there with the Jacksonville Jaguars, or I don't know exactly what position he's in, but still, they just need an adult in that room. It's clear with Abdul Carter's benching, just kind of, they're directionless. Look, this guy they have, they're not going to take him serious. They know he's not going to be there in 5 weeks. The second their game ends in week 18, his ass is going to be out the door. I don't even know his name, their interim head coach. I completely forget. He had the weirdest eyebrows I've ever seen last night. I don't know if you guys seen that, but he looks practically evil. I don't even know. He's a strange looking dude, but regardless, they just need some adulting in that room. It feels like a good spot for a Mike Tomlin. It's going to be highly sought after that job. That's where I thought Lane Kiffin could potentially go, but we know that whole debacle with him and LSU and all right now, so we know that ain't happening. But the Giants just need some direction. It was clear yesterday. These two teams are in complete opposite directions. It's not even close. And that showed in the score last night. Top 10 teams heading into week 14 here. Top 10 Tuesday, as we know, is what I call it. But we're just doing the top 10 teams here today. Let's get started here with my honorable mention spot. We have a bit of a logjam. Look, starting from the honorable mention spot, the 10 spot, these teams are like a 2-point difference. I mean, seriously, I would take who's my honorable mentions now, the Houston Texans. If they were to play who's in my number 1 spot, who I'll get to in a little bit, obviously, it would be close. I wouldn't feel comfortable with it. I mean, these are very 1-2 point differences between these teams from 10-1, seriously. So a bit of a log jam here, but we're going to start off with the Houston Texans in my honorable mention spot. Look, the way their defense is, I think they've been 9 games this year holding teams under 20 points in an offensive league. That is incredibly impressive. No team wants to go against that Houston Texans defense. I said if one team can sneak into the playoffs, and there's one team I wouldn't want to play out of Baltimore, out of hell even Kansas City even, Buffalo, whatever, I wouldn't want to play the Houston Texans. That's one team I absolutely would just dread seeing playing in the wild card or the divisional round, wherever the hell they're at. I would dread it. Their defense is incredible. D'Amico Ryan schemes it well. I said if the Houston Texans even had a number 12 offense in the league, 15 in average offense, this team would be competing for the number 1 seed in the AFC right now, seriously. But their offense is just very stagnant. I don't trust it. They look like they're starting to kind of get better and kind of find some sort of formula, but they don't have an identity on offense at all. It's just kind of all over the place. Their running game, I like Woody Marks, but him and Nick Chubb are kind of inconsistent. Sometimes Woody Marks will break off a big run, but it's just not consistent enough. Their offense is just not consistent enough. Number 10, I have the Detroit Lions. Their secondary is their main cause for concern, and their interior of their offensive line is brutal. Their interior offensive line is really bad. Their tackles are great, but they're missing, what's his name? Came out of retirement. Is it Ragnow, I think, came out of retirement? Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But he came out of retirement. Their center did end up playing at a grade 3 hamstring injury or something like that. I don't even know how you don't know you have that, but he didn't clear his physical. And I think the Lions are in some trouble. Terrion Arnold now out for the season, getting season-ending surgery. So, they got serious issues in their secondary that I don't think they're going to be able to overcome. But Jahmyr Gibbs, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, who's kind of banged up a little bit, Jameson Williams can take over at points. He's a big-time player. Their offense is very much, they're a one-sided team. Their offense, they hum. They have a really good offense, but their defense is a liability. So that's something to keep an eye out for with the Lions. But if they can manage to play any sort of defense, they're one of the most dangerous teams in the league, and we've seen it. Number 9, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, I'm concerned with them. The reason why I keep them up here is they still have a pretty considerable lead in the NFC East, and we know their roster is really good, but you worry with Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni. Like, if it's not fixed by now, especially with a first-time offensive coordinator, I don't know if they're going to be able to fix it all season. Saquon Barkley looks very pedestrian. A.J. Brown, I think there's a little bit of drama in the locker room. That's something I keep an eye out for with the Philadelphia Eagles. And their defense, if they kind of start, regressing a little bit, that's something that could become a real issue for Philly and fast. So I'd keep an eye out for them, but little concerning there with Philly. Number 8, I have the San Francisco 49ers. It's their pass rush and their defense is way too banged up. Their offense is getting healthy. I like them, but if it wasn't for Robert Saleh calling that defense, I was trying to look for another word to use next to that, but that defense, they'd have major issues because he's really carrying the load there in San Francisco. But their pass rush worries me. They do not generate a pass rush. They have guys from like the USFL pass rush, like Cleveland Farrell and stuff, pass rushing for them. So that's going to be an issue. I think it's going to creep up on them, especially in the playoffs when you have to play Stafford and stuff like that. And Darnold, if you just let them throw on you all day, they're going to tear you alive. Look, they play Shador and Cleveland this week, which you can get away with having a really below average pass rush. But when you, like I mentioned, you go against Seattle and LA, you're not going to be able to get away with that at all. Number 7, I have the Green Bay Packers. Definitely seems like they have found their identity in some sort of way, which is a good thing for them because they've needed it. Their offense getting back on track. They definitely look like they found themselves. We know, I love their roster, their defense, their pass rush is fantastic. They have good receivers. We know Jordan Love can play like a borderline top 5 QB when he's at his best and the offense is at its best. And it's kind of looking like it's starting to gel, especially with their win on Thanksgiving. Number 6, I have the Buffalo Bills. Look, the Bills, I still am a little wary of their rushing defense, but they played a really good game against Pittsburgh. Josh Allen, they had a very slow first half. Josh Allen's been very up and down this year, but look, as long as Josh Allen can play like an MVP, that offensive line, which has some injury concerns there, they're missing their tackle, their star tackle. That stuff can creep up on you a little bit, but as long as they can keep Allen protected, James Cook they can keep him running the ball, stay fluent in the run game, and not get all pass happy, which Joe Brady likes to do at points. I think the Bills will be fine, but some injury concerns there for the Bills, especially on the O-line. Number 5, I have the Seahawks. The Seahawks look like one of, if not the fastest team in the league. Love Darnold, but that's my main concern with the Seahawks is Sam Darnold. I love him. I do think he can be a good quarterback, or I think he is a good quarterback. But there is times, especially when you have to play in the playoffs, you're not going against Tennessee. You're not going against Minnesota with Max Brosmer. You're going against Matt Stafford, who they played against a few weeks ago, and the Rams he put up 4 interceptions against. That's what worries me is him in the primetime lights, having to play in the playoffs, pressure's all on him. He has to be the guy to make a play. Kind of worries me a little bit with Seattle. I love Mike Macdonald too, but his inexperience as a head coach in terms of the playoffs as well, it's a bit concerning as well. They're going to be in the playoffs, but kind of concerns me going forward with Seattle, but we'll just have to see. Hopefully they can get it together, or not get it together during the playoffs because they're fantastic right now. I'm not saying they need to get it together right now. They're fantastic, but something to keep an eye out on there for Seattle. A little hesitant to move them higher right now. Number 4, I have Chicago. Chicago, why I had them over Seattle is I love their scheming. I think Ben Johnson's scheming in terms of the way they run the ball, they pound the ball. I just think the one thing that concerns me with Chicago is Caleb Williams' inaccuracy. He's a sub 50% completion percentage passer or sub 60% I think if they really need him, if the running game gets shut down in Chicago, that could be an issue that looms up on them. Is like, okay, Caleb, you need to save us. And he's had moments this year. He's made some incredible throws. He's had some great highlight plays. But in terms of being consistent on drives, that worries me a little bit with Chicago. If they really have to lean on the passing game, which in the playoffs, you have close games. You need to drive down the field. There's going to be those moments. And there's going to be those moments because they have a tough stretch coming out here to round off the season. So, that's really my only concern with them. They have the most takeaways in the league. They're the number one rushing offense in the league. I love Ben Johnson's scheming. I think it's a winning formula, but the passing attack could worry me a little bit, especially coming up in harsher weather as well, which we know Chicago has. Number 3, I have the Denver Broncos, kind of staying where they've been at the last few weeks. Again, their offense, they kept it very close against the Washington Commanders. If Nick Benito doesn't bat that ball down in overtime, the Commanders win that game and they lose to Marcus Mariota. That defense, where I kind of said with the Texans earlier, or the Lions and Texans really, but the Lions earlier, where it's very offensive heavy, I feel like it's kind of the same way for Denver. I think they have a decent offense, but they are very defensive heavy. Like if their defense doesn't play well, the Broncos are not going to win games. The defense, they need Benito to stay healthy. They need Surtain to stay healthy. But if they do that, this team, we could look up and they're in the AFC Championship. Absolutely. They have a winning formula. Payton's an experienced coach. And their offense, again, Bo Nix kind of worries me, kind of like a little bit Caleb Williams-ish, to where if the offense isn't clicking and they really have to rely on Bo, I do worry about that a little bit in colder, harsher weather, but I do like Bo Nix more than some people, though. I will say that. The media is harsh on him, but I do like Bo at the same time. Number 2, I have the Los Angeles Rams. I know they lost against Carolina, but the Rams have had a couple of losses this year that are like, oh, God, did they really come prepared coming into this game? Matt Stafford is fully capable, and I said this his entire career, of just dropping some absolute stink bombs. Like, you just look up and, oh, my God, what was that performance by Stafford? He goes weeks of looking great, and then he'll have like 1 touchdown and 3 picks and a fumble. He's capable of that. He always has been. He's a gunslinger. That's what happens with those QBs sometimes. It's like, God, what was that? What did I just watch? That was kind of Matt Stafford. He did have some great drives against the Panthers, but turnovers killed the Rams there. I will say one concerning issue with the Rams is their secondary. Look, I like Emmanuel Forbes. He's definitely played better, but they had moments in that game against Carolina where it was like, oh my God. They were getting torched, especially on 4th down. So keep an eye out on that for the Rams, but I think the Rams will be fine. Number 1, I have the New England Patriots. Big win against the Giants yesterday. Kind of went on a full thing about them a few minutes ago, but Drake May, Vrabel, seems like a match made in heaven there. Their defense is fantastic, and they're only going to get guys back. They will have Will Campbell back, though how their starting guard back was, mind you, they didn't even have them last night. And the offensive line actually looked really good. They're going to get, what's his name, Bill Williams back in a couple of weeks. So this team's only going to get healthier, and they still look fantastic, even with some of their injuries looming over the last couple of weeks. But that's my top 10 teams. Again, we're splitting hairs from honorable mentions to number 1 there. I think any of these teams, if they were to play each other, would be a close game, and either one could win at any moment. Here to round off the video, we have Matt's stock market. We'll go over this pretty quickly. This is my first time doing this here on the channel. It's a segment I'm keeping on the channel. Something I've been wanting to do, but figuring out where to fit it in with my content. And here we are today. So we're going to go over this briefly, but we're going to get more intact into it the next couple of weeks as the season goes on. So teams to buy into now after week 13, buy into the New England Patriots, buy into the Denver Broncos, buy into the Bears, buy into the Rams, and buy into the Seahawks. I know it seems simple, but those are teams I am confident with throughout the rest of the season to stay confident with and buy into those teams. Now, look, teams I do buy into could potentially fall out into the considering category, but I am absolutely confident these teams could make a run of some sort, especially in the playoffs, and to round out the season. These are like my number 1 seed competitors so far. Now, again, we'll add more teams into the buy, especially when more teams start clinching playoff spots. But yeah, we'll get into that here as the season goes on in the upcoming weeks. We'll get more into that. but teams to sell on, or actually let's do considering. Consider buying into these teams, or even I'm kind of considering selling these teams at the same time to where I'm in the middle. I don't know what to do. The Bills, again, I'm still kind of concerned with some of the injuries they have. They're very Josh Allen reliant. I was kind of considering buying into them or selling them at the same time. But again, once I sell a team, I don't buy back. I don't consider them at all. They're done for the year. I just do not feel good about them whatsoever. And I don't feel where I'm at that point with the Bills at all yet. The Jags, I don't know what the hell to do with the Jags. They look good one moment. Trevor Lawrence is fully capable of putting up 3 picks, but I just need a couple more games out of the Jags. I don't know there. The Eagles, again, they have issues all over the board. I'm considering them. I'm also considering the Texans, the Chiefs. I'm not buying into the Chiefs at all, but I also don't want to sell the Chiefs because they have Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and hell, even an old Kelsey, as long as they have them, I'm not selling. I'm also not buying because they're not in the playoffs either. And their season teeters every single week. They win a game, then they lose a game. They need to start winning consecutive games fast because we could look up and this team's not at 8, not in it. So we'll see with the Chiefs. I'm still considering them, but they're at the bottom. And the Colts and 49ers. At the Colts, I don't trust Daniel Jones. And if Jonathan Taylor's playing pedestrian, if he's not playing like an MVP, the Colts aren't going to win games. And especially now with the Texans kind of creeping up on their trail and the Jags leading the division, for the first time all season, it feels like the Colts have some serious pressure on them. For a while, it's like, okay, are they going to get the number 1 seed? Now it's like, okay, can we stay in the playoff race? That's where the Colts are at. So we'll see. They're teetering for me. They stay in the consideration. I'm considering buying in, but I'm not really considering selling the Colts yet either. But they're closer to sell for me, to be honest with you. And then the 49ers, as I mentioned with their pass rush earlier, I don't know. They have guys, when you're missing Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, and you're out there running with USFL guys out there in your defensive line like Cleveland Farrell and Keon White, it's tough. That's tough to overcome. So, but I'm definitely closer to buying into the 49ers again. As we go on, I will add more teams into my buy. I may end up pulling some teams to do. I might consider buying in, maybe selling. So, again, it's my first week doing this, and it'll get a little more fluent as we go as well. Some teams that I have absolutely sold, I'm done with for the rest of the season. The Panthers, I like the Panthers. I like Bryce Young. I like their story, but it's not going to work. They have a tough stretch coming up. They're too inconsistent. Dave Canales' play calling is too inconsistent. He'll end up, again, like the 49ers. If he would have just did what he did against the Rams and run it with Dowdle and Hubbard, they may have ended up winning that game, or at least been a lot closer than that. I just don't trust Canales and even Bryce Young to an extent. They're just too inconsistent. The Lions, I have sold on the Lions. Look, their secondary and their defense is way too banged up and just they're just not very good. I mean, they got torched by the Giants and Jameis Winston the other week. I mean, you looked at the Giants last night against the Patriots defense. They were completely bottled up. I mean, hell, you watch them against the Giants and Jameis. Jameis was out there catching 30-yard touchdowns and stuff. It was pretty embarrassing. So that's something I can't overcome with the Lions. I can't. I love their offense. I love Goff. I love Jahmyr Gibbs, but that defense is going to haul them. It is. And they play against the Cowboys this week, which their offense is fantastic. So that's going to be a tough game for them. The Ravens, sold on the Ravens. I mentioned this in a short last week. I don't like John Harbaugh. It's not that I don't like him as a person. I don't like him as a coach. It's just I don't think he's a good coach at all. And Lamar, if he ain't playing well, this team doesn't even look like a top 20 team in the league. They look terrible. And Lamar definitely seems like there's some up. I don't know. The whole thing is off with Zay Flowers, all the players in the organization. It's just a weird vibe. It's not what it's been. It doesn't feel like a winning formula. So I'm out. The last team I'm sold on is the Chargers. I know they're 8-4, but Justin Herbert now getting surgery on it. I know he's on his left hand, but they're banged up. They're really banged up. And, well, this team may sneak in the playoffs. I just think with these injuries, they're one and done. I'm out. I don't think this team is going to win a playoff game. I'm out on LA right now. They have a lot of substantial injuries there. Now, next week with Matt's stock market, I'm going to add in teams that I bought into that are just bought already, which is the Patriots, Broncos, Bears, Rams, and Seahawks. I'm not going to end up putting those teams in considering. And I'm also going to have my sold teams as well, to where, again, the teams that I mentioned today, Panthers, Lions, Ravens, and Chargers, they're sold. There's no need going over them every week. So we're going to add new teams every week that I'm buying into and selling into. So it'll get more consistent as we go on through the weeks. But yeah, I just figured I'd let you guys know that. And there's considering teams, well, either 1 or 2 a week are going to move into, I'm sold on that team for the week, or I'm going to buy into them, and I like them. So yeah, we'll get into it as the weeks go by. But that is it for today's video here today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And as usual, everybody, take it easy.